Hi there, this is Noe from Now Anime Photography. Some of you know me as the kind of a night photographer slash rain photography here on YouTube. And there's something I really gotta get off my chest. It's not a rant, believe it or not. But the thing is, maybe about a year ago, I made a video about my night photography settings, which a lot of people, it helped out. Like, it helped out a ton of people. But at the same time, a lot of people were pissed off, like, well, you need more technicality than just shooting auto at night, And like, that's fine. If people want to complain about that kind of stuff, it's cool. Then later on, I made another video about how to do night photography and the stuff that like pretty much all the other YouTubers don't tell you to do. And it's still true to this day. Like, nobody else does these kind of things on YouTube. But I want to point out that when I say to like underexpose for night photography, street night photography, I only mean that for like my style of photography, If you're interested in capturing the night lights in the way that I do, then you will underexpose, maybe by a stop, usually 2/3 of a stop to a stop. I don't go over one stop because then the picture gets too dark. But I never really explained why this works. But before I get into that, I want to tell you that it's very specific to this type of photography, and you shouldn't go around underexposing every single picture that you take. Like if you're doing portraits, especially portraits, your subject is not the street, your subject is the person, so you won't expose normally, right? And if you're doing like daytime stuff, then there's no real reason to underexpose unless you're shooting in the direction of the sun. But this just kind of brings me to another point, like why I never share my settings with people. Actually, I do share my settings. I shoot auto, like I share aperture priority, auto ISO, auto shutter speed. Well, that is aperture priority, like. And since I use manual lenses half the time, I'm always shooting around f4. Even though I do have like 1.2, 1.4, 1.8 lenses, I usually shoot around like f4 because I miss the focus much less. So that's just the way I do things. I know all the other people here on YouTube will tell you you need a quick lens and you need the best cameras and you probably even need a tripod, and that's just a bunch of bullshit. I'm gonna put that right now. I mean, it's great if you're doing another kind of night photography, but if you're interested in my kind of photography, well, even if you're not interested in my kind of photography, you can just go out there and shoot and click and it's fine. In fact, I even have a video of me doing it with a phone and showing you how to do it with the phone. And but once again, to point out, this is very specific to my kind of photography, and almost everyone that has tried this, it works very great for them. It's like so now I want to talk to you about why my night photography settings work, and why it works with your phone, and why it works with a camera from like 2007. And here's the reason why. First of all, you're shooting at f4. It helps you focus much faster. Yes, you're not going to capture everything in the photo, but if you're trying to expose for every single shadow and every single black in your photo, then your whole picture is going to just come out all kind of washed out. Like there's not going to be any pretty lights. It's just going to be like one big white and gray picture. And with my kind of pictures, you want to bring the colors out of the highlights. Like since I do a lot of neon photography, you want the color in the highlights. If you just shoot like a normal person, f1.4, ISO, whatever, I don't know what shutter speed YouTube photographers recommend, but I don't really care about that stuff. But if you just shoot like a regular picture and you're trying to capture the night lights, your highlights, your neon lights, LED lights, they're all going to come out washed out. It's all just going to look white, no color in them. And yes, everything else is going to be gray, and you're going to see everything in the shadows and the blacks. But I don't like the way that looks. I want to capture the night lights, so I expose for the night lights. And of course, I do want some information in the shadows, but I don't want too much information. That's why I just bring out the shadows a little bit. I leave the blacks the way they are. People always tell me, hey, how come your photos have like no noise? Like, oh, I need a camera like yours because my pictures always come out noisy. Well, they're noisy because you're trying to expose for the blacks and the shadows, and I'm trying to expose for the highlights. That's why I can use low ISO. That's why I can shoot at f4, and that's why I can have a high shutter speed at night, because I'm interested in the contrast between the light and the dark. Whereas you just want to see everything that's in the dark and the highlights get blown out, right? ISO is another thing. Even though my pictures are not noisy according to people who see them, they're still a little noisy. You know, I'm shooting like, I shoot at auto ISO, believe it or not, you know. I think the max my ISO ever goes to is like 6400. You can go higher than that, but I just kind of leave it at that, like 100 to 6400. I don't have time to worry about the settings, you know, when I'm shooting. Anyone who's shot with me knows that I just take a bunch of pictures, I'll work the scene, and then I'll go to like somewhere else, you know. I'm not gonna be there wasting my time trying to dial in all the manual settings, and before I know it, the moment is gone. No, that's a bunch of BS. Actually, here's another fallacy I want to dispel. I hear this a lot from like people in the comments from Reddit and people who get mad at me for not telling them what camera I use or lenses or settings. They tell me, if you tell me your settings, I can learn faster, I can learn more. That's also a load of bullshit. I know a lot of people believe that. It's not true. I mean, here's the thing. You shoot with an aperture open, you get bokeh. You shoot with an aperture closed, you get everything in focus. All right? You shoot with a fast shutter speed, you freeze everything in action. You shoot with a slow shutter speed, everything is in motion. You shoot with high ISO, picture is noisy. You shoot with low ISO, it's less noisy. There you go. That's all you really need to know. Regarding focal length, it doesn't even matter. You know, if you shoot with like a 14 millimeters, wide angle, 35 millimeters, it's gonna look wider. Buildings are gonna look smaller. People are gonna look weird. There you go, that's wide angle lens. You shoot with a telephoto, everything's gonna get compressed. Everything's gonna look closer. There you go. I mean, there's not much to it when it comes to photography. So when people say, I need to know your camera, I need to know your lens, I need to know your settings so I can learn. No, it's bullshit. You can look at my picture and you can kind of figure out what I use. Okay, that kind of looks, there's no blurriness, so I use a fast shutter speed. There's not that much noise. I guess he's using so-so ISO. I don't see any bokeh. He must not be shooting at f1.2. You know? Easy peasy. I swear, like, people complicate photography much more than it needs to be complicated. Like, and I think photographers complicate photography just to make it seem more like mystifying or like they have talent or much harder than it has to be. Like, I don't know why people try to make it so much harder than it is. You know, it's not hard. You just kind of go out there and take photos. The hardest part about photography is making yourself go out there to take the picture, you know. Same thing about which camera do I use. It doesn't matter. No, I shot for 6 months with my phone just to show you that it doesn't matter. But then you get like all these people on like Twitter and Reddit, and they're like, nah, a new camera is definitely going to help you, blah, blah, blah. And it might make your pictures a little bit better, but it's not gonna take it to the next level. You know, it's like, if you suck with a regular camera, chances are you're going to suck with a better camera too. That's just the way it is. I don't mean to demean anyone, but like, I've always said on this channel, like any camera after like 2012 is like more than enough. In fact, you could use a camera from like 2007 and the picture is gonna come out great. I shoot all the time with a film camera with like ISO ASA 200 film at night. You know, I'm gonna make more videos about that. And if someone like me who specializes in night photography can do this with a regular old camera or regular old film cameras, why do you need such an expensive camera? Is autofocus a problem? Hey, I shoot manual lenses most of the time. Most of the time, not always, most of the time. And if you're shooting in the daytime, which most people watching this channel are, because not many people out there shoot night photography, if you're shooting in the daytime, your camera is pretty much going to be identical or non-distinguishable from like a really expensive camera, because both you're going to be shooting like f8, ISO 200 and a fast shutter speed, you know. This notion that like, hey, a new camera is going to help you, it's not really going to help you that much. You know, it's going to help you a little bit, might make your pictures less noisy. The focusing might be better, but it's not going to change the way the picture looks. You know what I mean? My main camera is 10 years old, you know, 10 years this year. And people don't even notice that. They're like, what? I just wanted to get that out there. And kind of explain my rationale for my settings and basically get this out there, because I'm kind of fed up with trying to teach people about just using whatever camera you have, or I try to tell people to shoot the way I shoot because they ask me, but then they don't follow my advice. They go out there, but this YouTuber says shoot 1.4. All right, then if you want, go ahead, knock yourself out, buy a 1.2 lens or something. And I even get conflicting advice from other YouTubers. They're like, hey man, you need to buy a 1.4 lens and you gotta shoot like with a tripod and make sure you're shooting at f8 so you get all the details. Like, hey, why do I need a 1.4 lens if I'm going to be shooting at f8 with a tripod for street photography at night? You tell me that. It's just the things people tell you, it's like, I don't know. But anyways, this is just my thoughts regarding night photography. Once again, you don't have to underexpose for every single picture. It's just like for my style of photography, especially if you're doing portraits, you don't want to underexpose because you want all the information from the face. If you're out in the market for a new camera, a new camera doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. It can just be a new camera as in it's a few years newer than the one you have now. Like the new camera that I bought when my other one broke down is actually came out like 3 years ago or something, but it was more than enough for me. That's my infrared camera, not this camera. This camera is like my main camera, the old camera, but it works just fine because you have good light. And even if it's dark, it doesn't matter because I'm exposing for the highlights. So just wanted to throw that out there. I'll see you around.